Okay, we're here at Hook 24 in Reno, Nevada at the Grand Sierra Resort. And my first guest from our booth is a guy we talked to last year, but the technical aspects of the episode didn't really work. We tried to do this during the Bug Roach Mixer, which was a huge mistake. It's Lieutenant Colonel Mark Hasara. Mark, it is great to see you, my friend.
Mooch, it's great to be back on your channel again.
We have not had an Air Force tanker pilot on the channel, and so as a fighter guy, we love you guys, and I wanted to talk to you about some of everything you didn't know about being a tanker pilot.
Okay.
So let's start from, what was your commissioning source?
I went through Brigham Young University, ROTC Det 855. Great years to be at BYU. Jim McMahon was the quarterback and Danny Ainge was playing basketball.
You get your commission, you go to flight school. Where is flight school?
I went to flight school at Vance Air Force Base in Enid, Oklahoma, about 40 minutes north of Oklahoma City. We did T-37 trainers, all right? Little 6,000 pound dog whistle is what we call it. Because it's got little teeny engines, it sounds like a dog whistle, okay? But then we went to T-38s. And oh my gosh, that was absolutely the thrill of a lifetime to be in formation in basically a fighter jet. And you know, you have to go through navigation, but formation was really the big deal in T-38 training. And so I finished T-38 training, and my class got 21 tanker assignments.
Of how many people that graduated?
We only had 35 people graduate.
So 21 of 35 who got their wings with you got tankers?
Got tankers,
okay.
Yeah. We had 3 fighter assignments, and then the rest were C-130s, C-141, C-5s.
So what year was this?
This was in 1985.
Okay.
So I leave Vance Air Force Base, go to Castle Air Force Base in Merced, California. That was my first introduction to B-52 refueling, because that's where the B-52s also did their training. I think we had one fighter mission through that whole time period of 15 tanker sorties that got us our initial qual as a co-pilot. From there, I left to Pease Air Force Base in Portsmouth, New Hampshire. And it was wonderful, because we had FB-111s. And it's a swing wing fighter bomber, much like you're used to, but it's a nuclear bomber. My next training there at the squadron, obviously, is for the nuclear war, or what we call the Single Integrated Operation Plan. That was the name of the nuclear war plan that I was a part of in Strategic Air Command.
Each tanker squadron, being very general here,
Yes.
is dedicated to a specific type of airplane and that mission?
That is correct. Strategic Air Command, its total focus is on this nuclear mission. Even though most of us knew we would probably never do this, but we sacrificed learning about how we would deal with you guys, interoperability with the Navy. During the 5 years I was at Pease Air Force Base, I maybe only did 5 drogue missions, period, in 5 years.
So let's explain what you're talking about.
Okay.
Right? The difference between the way that the Air Force tanks and the way the Navy tanks.
We refuel the FB-111s with the traditional boom refueling system. It's a flying boom, it's got rudder vaders, and it's got an extending pipe with a nozzle at the end that we would stick into the other airplane. And there's a series of latches that click when we're connected. And that's what holds us together. The FB-111, we would pump 6,000 pounds a minute. We have 4 pumps, 1,500 pounds. That was our general rule of thumb for planning. And a B-52, we would be connected for 22 minutes because they would take 100,000 pounds.
How many pounds did you have on your airplane?
I was taking
How much
off,
give did you have?
I would take off with about 110,000 pound give.
So you talked about the way that the Air Force boom works.
Correct.
What's the drogue?
So the drogue is, we call it the BDA, boom drogue adapter, and it fits on that nozzle, and it has this great big hose that dangles down with a 250 pound metal basket, okay? And you're smiling because you know where I'm going with this, okay?
Yeah.
We call it the Iron Maiden
That's
for
what
a
we
reason.
called it too.
Yeah, okay? Because it's back there swinging around, and it could smack you, and you know guys that have been smacked by this thing too.
No, we've had a lot of mishaps.
Yeah, we've had a lot of mishaps where not only has it smacked the airplane, taken probes off, it's taken doors off, and some of you guys have returned with the basket on the probe too. It was very unforgiving.
Yeah.
And
there's no take-up reel.
No, there's
right?
no
That's
take-up on it whatsoever. It's just there, and it's heavy.
So you talked about 3 pumps. You could do 6,000 pounds a minute for
With
an F-111.
Okay.
4 pumps.
4 pumps.
So when you were doing drogue ops, you were not using 4 pumps.
We couldn't.
Because you couldn't, right?
Because the hose only allows 1,000 pounds per minute through the hose.
Okay.
And that was our planning factor for refueling you and your Tomcat, was as soon as you got connected, it would be 1,000 pounds a minute with 1 pump. You couldn't take any more through the hose, all right? And that, of course, takes a while.
Right.
At 1,000 pounds.
Yes.
Particularly when I'm giving each one of you like 10,000 pounds.
Yeah.
There's 20 minutes right there, and then of course you've got cycle time, which we use 2 minutes. So now you're talking 24 minutes to do 2 Tomcats.
Okay. Yeah.
And we had to figure out a better way to do the drogue.
The other difference between refueling an Air Force airplane and a Navy airplane, you talked about boom and a drogue assembly
Yes, sir.
adapter. So when an F-111 or an F-15 or anything pulls up, their job is just basically fly form on you.
Yes.
And then the boomer.
The boom operator flies the boom, okay? So he's got 2 controls. He or she has got 2 controls in their hand, all right? One is down here beside them, and it's up, down, right, left, okay? Just like a cyclic stick in a helicopter. And then up here on the panel is the extension that causes the boom to extend out into the receptacle of the Air Force airplane. And so the boom is doing all of the work there. When we're doing the Navy, you're doing all the work. And as you know, that basket jumps around, and we cannot lock the boom down. And sometimes our boom operators will try and help and be very unhelpful at the same time.
Yeah, I had many pilots say, stop flying the boom.
Yeah.
Or they would say lock the boom, which like you say is not a thing, but they would say, basically that was an order to don't try to fly it.
Correct.
Just keep it steady. So I will say from our point of view, when you looked at the air tasking order during Southern Watch or Desert Storm or whatever, if it was a KC-10, you were pretty happy because that was a nice soft pillow of a drogue and a take-up reel.
Yeah.
135 was, as you said, it's just an adapter on the regular boom that didn't have a take-up reel. No. So you would plug it and get a little loop in it and then just fly form on the knuckle, which is where the boom attached to the adapter. So at first, it was pretty hairy. I had pilots first, because as a senior Rio particularly, I would fly with the junior pilots who'd never seen a 135. Yeah. And they would try to make a play and they'd break the probe tip off so you couldn't refuel, or the probe door. So for the audience out there, if you see a Tomcat photo from that era where the probe doors are off, some COs are like, I'm going to get ahead of this. I'm just taking all the probe doors off of our airplanes.
And it's because of me.
Yeah. Yeah. As we got more comfortable with the 135, that was unnecessary.
Yeah.
But during like Desert Storm, a lot of COs were like, I'm not even going to risk it. We'll just take all the probe doors off.
And we appreciated that too, because that was one less risk that we had to deal with, was that door coming off. And I had a lot of boom operators would say, hey, there's a door missing. I don't know if it was us. I'd go, hey, they do this so that you won't take it off with the Iron Maiden, the wrecking ball, whatever you want to call it. And we understood that. We understood that.
So since we're here at Tailhook, Mark, let's focus on the Navy ops that you've done. So what was the first theater where you did sustained and frequent tanking of Navy airplanes?
Desert Shield, Desert Storm was the very first time we had done serious 24/7 refueling operations with the Navy. And I was stationed at Jeddah. So we were the John F. Kennedy and the Saratoga's primary air refueling assets. And we had no idea how you guys did business. Because again, we're all SAC trained killers. We've studied the PSYOP. We can do that real good. But we don't know how the Navy does their business.
Jointness was not a thing.
No,
then,
it wasn't.
Right? Desert Storm forced us all on the same page.
Correct. And the reason we became so good at it was because every week our planners were going out to the John F. Kennedy at the invitation of Riley Mixon, Admiral Mixon, and we were spending a lot of time with the Navy planners trying to figure out how are we going to do this interoperability thing, and how are we going to refuel these massive 26, 30 plane packages of Navy airplanes that have a kind of a short track to refuel you guys on. We weren't going to be able to get you guys all through. And that led us to come up with what we called the hose multiplier tactic and procedure. And that was taking your KA-6s and putting them on the wing of the tanker as another drogue. You've got the best of both worlds. Of course, you've got the Iron Maiden on us, but now you've got your KA-6, which you're used to refueling off of, and it's got the nice soft basket. And as soon as the KA-6 was out of gas, we'd cycle them onto the tanker and fill them back up. And we were flying 5 tanker cells, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, with your alpha packages with the KA-6 on the wing. And that's how we were able to do that. But we weren't able to think of that because we didn't know.
Yeah.
We had to come out to the carrier and learn from you guys how you do your business. How are you going to defend us? What does a Tomcat do? We didn't know. Okay, he's got these big, massive missiles under him. I'm sure they've got some reach on them. But how are the F-14s going to protect us? How are the F-18s going to protect us or drop their bombs? All of this stuff, EA-6Bs, all these big packages, we had no idea.
Yeah, we take it for granted, things that we just did automatically thereafter.
Exactly.
So the other thing, Mark, that complicated the planning piece, so once you guys get it and you've come up with this cool bucket brigade using the KA-6, now the other problem with the Navy is we hadn't ever integrated the ability to get an air tasking order digitally to the carrier, right?
Yeah.
So because we were kind of slow rolling jointness in a way that really hurt us once the bubble went up for Desert Storm. And we, after that, became believers in every facet of jointness because we had to, because we were getting cut out of some of the choice missions and other things. But the ATO was the 24-hour cycle where every day, this is how you would find out who your tanker was, what tanker track, Strawberry or the other ones where you would be either Saudi or Qatar or wherever.
It was Lemon and Raisin.
Yeah, okay,
Remember
Lemon and Raisin.
Lemon and Raisin were the 2 tracks that took the Red Sea to Baghdad.
Yes. We would actually have an S3 go to the beach, get a hard copy of the ATO, and then fly back and pass it out like old school mimeograph.
Isn't that crazy?
It is crazy, right? That's where we were at that point.
So let's talk about the ATO for just a second. Again, I'm coming from Strategic Air Command. We don't do ATOs. There were very few tanker guys that knew how to read an air tasking order. And the air tasking order, like you say, is the important schedule that says, here's when you're tanking, here's when your mission is, here's when you're going to tank, here's where you're going to tank, here's the altitude you're going to tank at, this is how much gas you're going to get. And we had tanker guys that didn't know how to do that because, again, we're coming from Strategic Air Command. We don't teach that stuff, okay? So again, Strategic Air Command.
So this is OJT to the max.
Yeah,
right? There's no training. It's
absolutely. And we're all like going, holy smokes, how are we going to do this? How are we going to do this with the Navy? And there are primary receivers, and you guys are flying these 26 alpha packages, 20 plane alpha packages, like 3 or 4 times a day and through the night.
Yeah.
So not only are we doing this during the daytime, we're doing this at night.
Plus,
too.
we got to hit you on the way in and the way out.
And the way out.
Yeah,
exactly. So our visits to the aircraft carriers, and I don't know about the guys in the Northern Arabian Gulf, if they were doing this, but
I'm sure they were. Same drill.
Jeddah took an extreme interest in how you guys did your business. Because we had developed this relationship with you on the John F. Kennedy and the Saratoga, when it came to doing 17 January, we did it all come out because now we understood.
All right, speed round.
Yes.
What was your hairiest mission?
The scariest mission for me was the opening night of Desert Storm, refueling the first Weasel package into Baghdad. I was leading a 3-ship of A models. We were a tune of 5.4, 5.6, 5.7, and we were refueling F-4G Wild Weasels, the first Weasel package going into Baghdad to shoot harms, take down the integrated air defense system, taking down all the radars and the surface air missile sites. And each one of those 4 ships had an EF-111 with them, a jammer like your Prowler. We had, again, I'm all about the customer, and I had called the mission commander. He was a lieutenant colonel by the name of George Walton, call sign John Boy, who's become a great friend. And he says, we have to be at this line right here. We can't accept 10 seconds late or 5 seconds early. So we had a 15-second window. And what it was this is where the Iraqi radars will see us. And it had to do with their jamming, and it had to do with their mission, because their mission is to take down those radars. And we went through it about 5 seconds early, and as soon as we went through it, MiG calls. The MiGs reacted. And we had fulcrums about 120 miles in front of us coming our way. And that was frightening for a tanker guy. And again, we're experiencing things that we do not normally experience in a normal Strategic Air Command tanker mission. We're focused on the nuclear mission, not the conventional mission. So again, our learning curve was even bigger than just the Navy, because now we're talking to AWACS, they're giving us threat calls. I'm refueling guys that truly are the gateway into Baghdad, because if the Weasel mission didn't go off, everything shut down. As you know, you got to take down the integrated air defense.
That was a crazy mission. The Weasel mission was ballsy.
Really ballsy, okay? And I heard the greatest radio call of my career. Pennzoil check, 2, 3, 4. Sicko check, 2, 3, 4. Exxon check, 2, 3, 4. Mobile check, 2, 3, 4. It was all the F-15s checking on, and they push across, and they shoot down like 7 MiGs, like in the next 12 minutes, all right? Because later on we hear, all clear to the north. And I'm in the cockpit going, woohoo, they're all dead, okay? And we push forward, but our number 4 guy had a fuel tank problem. His fuel tanks wouldn't pressurize right, and we couldn't get the gas in him. So we got to the end refueling point, and I just said, our job is to refuel, guys. And we just kept going. We dropped them off 2 miles from the Iraqi border.
Oh my God.
Okay? Their fence checkpoint was the border. And then 4 days later, I had to go 40 miles into Iraq to pick up F-16 4-ship. And the F-16 captain that came to our boom first had 800 pounds. 6 minutes of flying time.
Oh my God.
40 minutes in Iraq.
That is on fumes.
Yeah. And for all of your listeners, you have to understand, the F-16 burns 125 pounds per minute. He's got 800 pounds.
And there's gauge error.
Yeah, and there's a 300-pound gauge error,
yes,
okay?
Yes.
A 300-pound gauge error, okay?
Yeah.
So maybe 500, maybe? And there's 32 of them. Wow. And they're all checking in, Ward. I've got 15, I've got 12, I've got 7, I got 800 pounds, all right? And we told him, just come straight to the boom, come straight to the boom. And we plugged that guy, and when he was plugging in, he said, boom, we've got one chance to do this, or I'm gonna have to go over the side. Because as you know, you never say eject over the radio. And he said, I'm gonna have to go over the side. And our boom operator stuck him. We gave them each 1,000 pounds, cycled them back through, gave them like 2,500 more pounds. And then they said, great, thanks, we're out of here. And AWACS told us, turn 270 now. And we're like, is somebody attacking us? Is something going wrong here? They said, turn 270 now. And we're like, okay, what's going on? And a 4-ship of Weasels joined on us. And as we head further west, they said, you're part of a package now refueling to pick up a downed airman. It was Boots Jones.
Okay. And I've done that episode for those who haven't seen the Slade, I forget what number it is, but it's Boots and Rat, Slade, yeah.
So we're now refueling the A-10s that are picking him up.
I think there was Slade 46.
Slade 46.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, the Rios, I think at this time had already been captured. And Boots
got repatriated by the trap package. So the Rat was a POW.
Yeah. So the Pavlo helicopter that comes in is call sign Moccasin 5, and the A-10s above them, their call sign was Gun Dog. And you can't refuel F4G Wild Weasels and A-10s at the same airspeeds. One's 315, one's 220. So we went into this great big wagon wheel over the top of Boots's location, so we could refuel all of them.
Which was H3, which is western Iraq.
Yeah, and that's why they said go 270. They want us out there.
Yeah.
Well, still, it's a little scary because it's only day 4 into the war, but we're all about, we're going to save this guy no matter what, because that is our contract. As you well know, Ward, our contract with any service member is we will bring you home. You may not be a warm body, but we will come get you and bring you home. And so finally they say, okay, you guys are done. And the A-10s peel off. And sure enough, we read the next day that he's been repatriated. So years later, I'm teaching at the Joint Forces Staff College in Norfolk. And our commandant says, you need to go over and meet that guy right there. And I said, who is it? And he goes, you just need to go over and meet him, introduce yourself. Because I told this story before. And so I go, hey, my name is Mark Hasara, call sign Sluggo. I'm a tanker guy. And I see his last name, Jones, on his thing. I said, are you Boots Jones? He goes, well, yeah, who are you? And I said, I'm that tuna tanker that was in the circle over your head when you guys were getting picked up, when you were getting picked up. And he goes, Sluggo, drinks are on me. The whole time you're here, drinks are on me.
Love it.
Sorry, I got to swallow here. But that is what we do. Our job is to refuel whatever package is out there. And the satisfaction of knowing that Boots got picked up, repatriated, and got to continue flying was huge for us. Huge for us.
Well, Mark, as a beneficiary of your innovation and everything you did to serve the customer, I say thank you. I'm glad we finally got this conversation done.
I'm so glad to do this. Okay.
I'll mention to everybody, Mark has a very awesome book with these stories and others in it called Tanker Pilot. Check it out. Available on Amazon and other places. A great read. All right, that'll do it for this episode. We'll do more from Hook, so stay tuned. If you're not a subscriber, become one so you don't miss anything. And I look forward to talking to you guys again very soon.